Hey guys, I hope you're well and welcome to today's special update on the crypto markets. My name is Alejandro Zambrano, Chief Market Analyst with Amana Capital and TradeCaptain.com, and today is January 16, 2018. If you're trading cryptos, if you just follow cryptos, so if you just follow me on Twitter, I guess you already noticed that most major coins have declined quite significantly today, and we saw a lot of stop loss orders triggered. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide you guys with a quick overview of what's going on in the top coins, so you can potentially use this when analyzing the markets. Before we start though, as always, I need to stress that trading financial markets or crypto coins is extremely risky, and there's a genuine risk that we'll lose all of our invested money, and if you're trading with leverage you can potentially even lose more than that. Okay guys, welcome to Trade Captain, and let's begin with Bitcoin. So this is Bitcoin versus the dollar, and Bitcoin did try to take out this low here, which is the 12,000 level, and this is a low that I think is important because it's the December 30th low, and you could have guessed, people that bought here on the first dip, they probably reduced their stop loss orders as the market moved to the upside here. At least that's what I did. I actually bought some down here more or less, and then the market went up, and then it went down, and then it went up again. I was hoping that this market would move down and then up again, so I actually put my stop loss pretty much at break even at this low here. Now that the market is revisiting these levels, so I was stopped out, and for now at least, it doesn't look like the market is going to establish itself below this level. But if it does do this, then this market could just continue to drift lower until we reach the next support level, which is down here at 8,961, which is the level here created on the 11th of November. The 30th of November. So for now, break here could open up further declines, and there are different ways of dealing with this. For example, in my case, I'm out of the market, so I think people that are not in the market, I guess some of them are already accumulating a little bit here, but again, if we trade below here, they're probably gonna rather wait to buy at lower levels. So the way I went about it is I bought about for 20% of my crypto portfolio that I bought here, and then the plan was to add more when the market moved to the upside. So I think some people might do this as well. However though, just because we're at attractive levels here and here doesn't actually mean that the market needs to bottom out. What we need to watch, I think, over the next few days and weeks is this downtrend. So you can see price creating lower and lower highs, and obviously if we trade above this trend line, and more importantly if we trade above this low here, which is at 14,695, I suspect the market could potentially bottom out and then head to the upside. But for now, this market is probably going to go down, up, down, and then eventually we can lower this level lower and lower and maybe go long on that break. What we're going to do now, we're going to continue here and we're going to look at Ethereum, and then we're going to see if we can take a look at some of these other markets. So Ethereum, obviously the number 2 coin, was actually one of the few coins that just continued to rally as the new year started of the majors. So you can see here how we had that decline, and you had that strong spike to the downside here in December, which is the same time the Bitcoin created today, the lows we're testing today. So 47% decline, and then traded sideways and then pushed to the upside. And then the market obviously rallied strongly, and from these levels, the market was up with about 86%, which is a very good return. Obviously not as stellar as we've seen before, but very good return. Now looking at this today, the idea that I presented in an article published yesterday was that either traders going to buy on a breakout, or they might try to buy here. But obviously anyone that watches the market wouldn't necessarily go out and just buy outright here, just because what was going on in all the markets. So if you didn't buy here and you were just waiting, then it made perfect sense. Now going forward, I mean, the trend did try to spike below here, but didn't necessarily manage to reverse, and we'll see what happens. I think if it starts to trade sideways, then yes, it could potentially move to the upside, and then I think some traders are going to try to go along here, but it pretty much depends on what's going to happen with the rest of the market. But for now though, above 10,063, the trend remains to some extent still bullish and could head to the upside. However though, we need to see some sort of reversal in things like Bitcoin and other markets as well. Now this is Monero, but let's actually take a look at Ripple. So Ripple, that coin that everybody bought, and even myself, I actually bought it in December down here, and then when it took out these highs here, I bought even more, and then when I move up to about these levels up here, I booked profits, and then it continued to gain. But as you can see here, this market has, since it hit this high here, high of $3.31, the market has declined with 64%. This is nothing weird or strange. In fact, it's quite normal. If you've seen my webinars, and we do have a special webinar on all the cryptos in the premium section, then you'll know that coins on average could decline with about 70%, and then they tend to bottom out. So this is 64% decline, and obviously if we move down a little bit lower here, that will be 63, and that will be the low here from December 24th. So with this spike on this 4 hour, seeing some stabilization, and again, I do assume that some people are buying a little bit here because they know the market can go down, but they also know that this is a fairly good entry. But the market here is not going to turn bullish though until we stop this downtrend. So for now, I think the same breakout level could act as resistance. It's probably going to go up and then maybe down, and then we'll see whenever we take out this trend. And I think that's really the overall theme here, is that we need to wait for these downtrends to finish so the market starts straight sideways before we can anticipate some strong gains in these coins. This is Monero. Keep an eye on this one. Why? Well, because Monero is said at least to offer better protection against if one is interested to or for the people that are interested in to keep their identities a secret. And we did see it push higher already. I think it was yesterday when there was talks of the South Korean government banning people or banning the use of anonymous accounts. So obviously you'll see some push from maybe people that have money in Bitcoin and things like that to something that provides a little bit more secrecy, like Monero. But Monero wasn't able to withstand the pressure and as well declined. Now here it's just trading above these lows, and I think around these levels, so starting from about 301, I think the traders will most likely try to potentially buy, and obviously for trade below 27.10 the market could slip to the next low, so I suspect traders might look to buy here and potentially get out if the market declines below this level. This offers a very nice and attractive risk reward ratio of about 13 pip risk versus a potential return of 49. This is Dash, and Dash from its high it's down with about, was at one point down with 56%, so very strong declines in these markets. And if you just look at which levels the markets are watching, then you have this level down here at 577 dollars per coin, and then you have this move here, or this high here. At one point it did look like the market was going to head up and straight to the upside. This would have been actually a great entry here, but the market plummeted, and here I think it's one of these markets that's going to remain a little bit hard to deal with, and again, maybe some people are looking to buy here, accumulate a little bit, but I don't think this is going to flip and turn bullish until we end this downtrend. Here's Bitcoin Gold. We had a nice little push hit to the upside. My last setup was, look for this to head to the upside, and it did have a very nice push. It was up with about 56% at one point, but then the market, this market can't, avoid what's going on with all the other markets. And this one is a little bit more trickier in the sense that it does not have like a solid trend. The purpose of Bitcoin Gold was to offer the same features as Bitcoin. However, you don't have to have this highly expensive and technically advanced software to mine it. So the idea was that anybody can mine it. So you go back and that everybody can be involved here. That's at least the way I understand the technology. And so far, people right now don't actually bother too much with it, just because it's just too similar to Bitcoin. From that, the only difference, of course, is uh, way how the mining process works. But if people want to trade and mine easier currencies, then there are those already, which are Ethereum. So here it's a bit much more difficult to kind of say what's going to happen because of this, because there's no strong trend. But technically this is just a big range, and this is highly speculative. The sentiment needs to change dramatically here for people to look to get involved. But I guess around these levels, some traders might buy, and stop loss probably down at 152. Here's Litecoin, and Litecoin as well in a downtrend needs to take out this high here at least, which is 25.59. It did try to break to the downside here. It does starts to look like a false move, so the market might just go up and then down and then up and then down. And again, I think some traders are probably accumulating some down here, but we need to wait for the end of this downtrend before the market gets going. Here is NEM as well. Very nice decline here. If you already booked profits, that is. If you long, then you're not happy at all. From the high, at one point the market was down 58%, and this is a nice solid block of resistance that most likely will turn into support. And this as well, most likely you have some traders accumulating positions, or accumulating longs here, and you need to wait for this series of lower and lower highs to end until the market turns bullish. And it's just a waiting game. I don't know for certain if it's going to bottom out here, but again, it does look interesting for it to potentially bottom out, but I won't know for certain when until this market turns bullish. And many times that's really where all the action is anyway. It's when the market turns bullish that it have these crazy moves. So it does make sense to wait. Here's IOTA, very popular. I have some friends here that are really long and actually very optimistic about this, and it's well talked about, this coin. I fully don't understand exactly how it works, but I can see that we're in a range, and this one is very fragile. It technically tested the lower end of the range, and if we take out this level, we might continue to see further declines to the downside, unfortunately. So with this, and I just changed the log chart, by the way, we could potentially see further declines to the downside. If we just look at prior declines in this coin, this market was down with 70% here. If we ignore the spike here, this market was down with 77% here. So from that perspective, from the high, 77% takes you, or 70% ish takes you down to this level here, more or less. So very fragile, and I just suspect this could be a bit of a victim here. Could potentially trade to the downside just because it's trapped in this very nice range. And we want to wait for a break to 47.37, I think, before this market turns bullish again. This is Neo, and this is just an old setup from December that it was just to buy around $40. Right now 154, so obviously a very good move. As for this market, it trades very differently to all the other markets. You can see how it doesn't have the same swing as we'll see in some of the other markets. So far the decline has been about 36%, and it still maintains a nice bullish bias. And I would argue that as long as we, I guess, trade above these levels here, which is 86, then traders will most likely look to buy down here. And the way this works is that it's definitely in a short-term downtrend, but this is a 4-hour chart. I think if I flip to the daily, you see this is like the big first negative day. So this market is not a market where it's strongly in a downtrend like you'll see in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash that we're going to look at in the next minute or two. So here we don't have to worry about that. I think traders that bought here could potentially and relatively easy see the swing to the upside, a little bit like Ethereum, which again is not in a significant downtrend. To finish off, let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. So this is Bitcoin Cash. I actually bought some of this down here, and then when we breached the highs here, bought some more. And my loss setup was actually as well. I bought some here, and as the market started to plunge here, I had to liquidate that position. Now here you have a major high up here, and then you have another major high here. And again, if you look at this from the big picture, you can see that this is decline of for now at least it was a 50, for now right now about 50%. This spike was about 62, and this is a market that could give back about 70% of its market. But if you look at it from a bigger picture perspective, imagine you never bought anything of these coins. Then because it's a nice uptrend, you look at this and you say, well, you know what, we're testing these lows here, and I know it's a significant risk, but as long as you trade above these levels here, then this market should bottom out where we are, maybe a little bit lower. So we're looking at a risk of about 43% full of a price decline, but around these levels, if this is a genuine uptrend, I think the market is going to look to bottom out. And if you saw my market update this morning, 300 seconds or 600 seconds of trading, we looked at the market cap charts, and when we looked at those, all the coins across this whole spectrum, we can see that the whole coin market is still in an uptrend, even though we're seeing this strong decline. So again, I think here there's definitely people that probably are looking at this and say, all right, let's buy for a little bit, and then this is probably going to go up, and then probably down, and then probably up, and then potentially the upside. Because that is at least what I think makes sense, as long as we trade above 1,105, which is this low here. If we take out this level, then yeah, we'll go down to maybe 400 again, even though I think it's quite unlikely. But you'll definitely see a squeeze in long positions. So it's interesting times. Again, traders that are not long, I do think they're accumulating some. Bitcoin and other markets are trying to break major levels, and I do think they all can continue to move a little bit lower. But then eventually, maybe in a few weeks from now, the market probably is going to try to stabilize, and then when we break the upside, I think that is really when we're going to start to see these moves again. And at that point, people start to add more and more, and we could potentially have some of these nice gains we've seen in the past. In fact, this sort of decline or some sort of boring period really is not that uncommon, even though of course Bitcoin had an amazing year last year. But I suspect that, you know, after a very nice run, we will tend to have boring periods. To give you an idea, here in 2013, the market or Bitcoin was at $13, and then obviously had 2 good years to the upside, rallied with 8,000%, and then the whole of 2014 was just a terrible. The whole of 2014 and 15 were like terrible bear market, where the market eventually gave back about 86%. And the reason for this is because after rain you have sun, and vice versa. And if you look here, we had an amazing move. I'm not saying it's going to turn really boring just yet, but at one point it will become really boring, and we'll have a steeper decline in this market, and then most likely we will have maybe sideways trading for a year, 1.5, until things kick off again. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is a special update. Don't forget to follow us on TradeCaptain.com and on TradeCaptain's YouTube page for more videos like this. Have a brilliant afternoon. Thank you.